Chapter 1. A Royal Request. The Galactic Council chamber hummed with tension as representatives from dozens of species convened under the vast dome. Seated at the far end of the chamber was Princess Zira Velanias, cloaked from head to toe in an iridescent shroud that shimmered with her every movement. Her people, the Nithalans, were known for their beauty, grace, and mysterious customs. Chief among those customs was the tradition of face-concealed bonding, an unbreakable pact between a Nithalan and a chosen partner. Rumors swirled through the galaxy about the reason for her concealment. Some said her face was so hideous it could drive a person mad. Others believed it was so beautiful that no one could resist its power. Regardless of the truth, no one had dared to bond with her, not even for the promise of Nithalan power, alliances, and wealth. Until now. At the center of the chamber stood Captain Darius Kane, a human diplomat and retired military officer. Tall and lean, with piercing green eyes that carried the weight of experience, he had been summoned unexpectedly to the council to address a mysterious request. Captain Kane, the council speaker, a towering reptilian called Xyrok, began. The Nithalan princess has made an unusual appeal. She seeks to bond with one from another species, and has chosen you. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Darius, standing rigidly in his formal attire, felt the weight of 100 eyes on him. "I've never even met the princess," Darius said, his voice calm but tinged with disbelief. "Why me?" Princess Zira's melodic voice rang out, cutting through the whispers. "You are known for your bravery, Captain Kane. I require someone who will not falter in the face of the unknown." Darius raised an eyebrow. "With respect, Your Highness, no one even knows why your face remains hidden. If bonding with you requires trust, shouldn't trust go both ways?" Her shroud shifted as she tilted her head slightly. "The concealment of my face is not a matter of trust but tradition. If you decline, I will seek another." Darius hesitated. His instincts warned him against involvement in such an enigmatic situation, but his curiosity and a sense of duty won out. "I'll do it," he said, his voice steady. The chamber fell silent. A bonding ceremony. The ceremony took place aboard the Nithalan royal vessel, a sleek, crystalline ship that gleamed like a star in the void of space. Darius was escorted to a grand chamber filled with swirling lights and floating platforms. At the center of the room stood Princess Zira, her shroud glowing faintly in the dim light. Nithalan attendants encircled them, chanting in a language Darius couldn't understand. One stepped forward, holding a small, intricately carved crystal that pulsed with energy. "This is the bond stone," the attendant explained. "Once activated, it will bind your fates, forging a connection deeper than mere words. Do you accept?" Darius glanced at Zira, who stood silently, her face still hidden. He hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "I accept." The bond stone was placed in his hands, its surface warm and vibrating with a strange rhythm. Zira reached out, her slender fingers brushing against his as she took hold of the crystal. The moment their hands met, the room was flooded with light, and a surge of energy coursed through Darius's body. He staggered but quickly regained his footing. Zira, too, seemed affected, her shroud flickering as though reacting to the energy. "It is done," the attendant said solemnly. The aftermath. Back in his quarters aboard the royal vessel, Darius felt different. The bond had left a lingering sensation, like a faint thread connecting him to something or someone beyond himself. He couldn't explain it, but he knew his life had changed irrevocably. A soft chime echoed through the room. The door slid open to reveal Zira, her shroud still intact. "May I enter?" she asked. "Of course," Darius said, motioning for her to sit. She settled gracefully into a nearby chair, her movements fluid and otherworldly. "I owe you an explanation," she began. "About why I chose you." Darius leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. "I'm listening." "My people are in danger," she said, her voice tinged with sadness. "The Dominion has declared war on the Nithalans. They seek to destroy us, claiming we are a threat to their expansion." Darius frowned. "And the bond? How does that help?" Zira hesitated before answering. "The bond strengthens both parties, enhancing their abilities and allowing them to share knowledge and power. I need someone strong and courageous to help lead my people in this fight. And I need someone I can trust. Darius studied her for a moment before nodding. You've got yourself an ally. The attack. Their conversation was interrupted by blaring alarms. Zira stood abruptly, her shroud flickering. We're under attack. Darius followed her to the bridge, where Nithilan officers scrambled to respond to the incoming threat. The view screen displayed a Dominion battleship, its sleek, black hull bristling with weapons. They found us, Zira said, her voice steady but grim. Darius stepped forward, his military instincts kicking in. What's the status of our defenses? Our shields are holding, but we can't sustain a prolonged assault, one officer replied. Darius nodded, formulating a plan. Divert power to the forward cannons. Target their engines. If we disable them, we might have a chance. The crew hesitated but complied, trusting the human who had bonded with their princess. Darius watched intently as the Nithilan ship fired a volley of energy beams, striking the Dominion vessel's engines and causing it to veer off course. They're retreating, Zira said, relief evident in her voice. For now, Darius replied, but they'll be back. A revelation. After the battle, Zira led Darius to a private chamber deep within the ship. The room was filled with holographic displays and intricate carvings that seemed to tell a story. These are the chronicles of my people, she explained. They contain the truth about our traditions and the reason for my concealment. Darius approached one of the displays, his eyes scanning the glowing text. So what is the truth? Zira hesitated before answering. Our faces are unique. They reflect not just our physical appearance, but our very essence, our fears, desires, and emotions. To see my face is to know me completely. That is why the bond is so sacred. Darius turned to her, his expression thoughtful. You think I'll fear you if I see your face? I do not know, she admitted, but I trust you. Darius stepped closer, his voice firm. Then trust me enough to show me. Zira hesitated, then slowly reached up to remove her shroud. As it fell away, her face was revealed a breathtaking blend of ethereal beauty and otherworldly light. Her features shifted subtly, reflecting emotions that flickered like waves of color. Darius stared, not in fear or awe, but in quiet understanding. You're incredible. Zira smiled faintly, her emotions visible in the glow of her features. And you are unlike anyone I have ever known. The bond between them deepened in that moment, and both knew they had taken the first step towards something far greater than either could have imagined. Chapter 2. The bond strengthens. The days following the Dominion's attack passed in a tense haze aboard the Nithilan royal vessel. Though the Dominion had been repelled for the moment, the threat of their return loomed like a storm on the horizon. Captain Darius Kane found himself increasingly involved in the Nithilan's plight, his bond with Princess Zira Velanias drawing him closer to their world. The ship's bondstone, still glowing faintly from the ceremony, sat in the center of a council room. Its pulsating energy seemed to resonate within Darius, linking him to Zira in ways he couldn't fully comprehend. He could feel her presence even when she wasn't nearby, comforting warmth in his mind that grew stronger each time they were together. A test of trust. One morning, Zira summoned Darius to the ship's observation deck. The space was bathed in soft starlight, with massive windows offering a breathtaking view of the endless void. Zira stood at the edge, her face uncovered but serene, her luminous features reflecting her emotions like ripples on a pond. Thank you for coming, she said, turning to face him. Darius folded his arms, his expression curious. You don't have to thank me. What's on your mind? Zira hesitated, her light shifting faintly to hues of doubt and resolve. The bond between us is growing stronger, but it has yet to be tested. I need to know if you're truly ready to stand by my side. Darius raised an eyebrow. Haven't I already proven that? I fought off Dominion ships with your crew. This is different, Zira replied, stepping closer. There is a ritual among my people, a trial of the bonded. It's meant to strengthen the connection and reveal any hidden doubts. Darius tilted his head. Sounds intense. What does it involve? Zira looked away, her features dimming slightly. It will place you in a simulation drawn from your deepest fears and memories. If you can overcome it, the bond will solidify. If not, her voice trailed off, but Darius didn't need her to finish. All right, he said after a moment. Let's do it. Zira's light brightened in surprise. You're certain? Darius smirked. I didn't sign up for this to quit halfway through. The trial. The ritual took place in the Chamber of Echoes, a hidden room deep within the royal vessel. The walls were lined with shimmering crystals that pulsed faintly as Zira and Darius entered. In the center of the room stood an ornate pedestal holding a smaller bondstone, its energy glowing with an eerie intensity. You'll need to place your hand on the stone, Zira explained. It will draw you into the simulation. I'll be with you, but only as an observer. You must face the trial alone. Darius nodded, his pulse quickening as he approached the pedestal. He placed his hand on the stone, and a wave of energy surged through him, pulling him into darkness. When the light returned, he was standing on the battlefield of Signar 7, a war-torn planet where he had once fought as a soldier. The air was thick with smoke, and the sound of gunfire echoed in the distance. This isn't real, he muttered to himself, gripping the plasma rifle that had appeared in his hands. It's just a memory. But the scene was so vivid that it might as well have been real. As he moved through the battlefield, figures emerged from the smoke-fallen comrades, their faces twisted in anguish. Why did you leave us? One of them asked, their voice a haunting echo. Darius's chest tightened. I didn't have a choice. Didn't you? Another voice challenged. The guilt he had buried for years threatened to overwhelm him, but he pushed forward, his grip on the rifle tightening. I'm not that man anymore. The shadows closed in, their whispers growing louder, but then a familiar warmth filled his mind. It was Zira, her presence a beacon in the storm. You are stronger than your past, her voice echoed. Keep moving. Darius took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. He pushed through the phantoms, their voices fading as he reached the end of the battlefield. A doorway of light appeared before him, and as he stepped through, he was pulled back into the Chamber of Echoes. The connection deepens. Darius staggered slightly as the simulation ended, but Zira caught him, her touch grounding him. Her features glowed with pride and relief. You did it, she said softly. Darius managed a faint smile. Was there ever any doubt? Zira chuckled, her light shifting to a warm gold. Perhaps not, but the bond is stronger now. I can feel it. So can I, Darius admitted, the connection between them humming like a steady pulse in his mind. What happens next? Zira's expression grew serious. We prepare for war. The Dominion strikes. Their preparations were cut short when the ship's alarms blared, signaling an imminent attack. Darius and Zira rushed to the bridge, where the crew was already scrambling to respond. A Dominion dreadnought loomed on the view screen, its massive hull bristling with weapons. Smaller fighter ships swarmed around it like insects, their engines glowing ominously. They found us, Zira said, her voice steady but grim. We must defend the ship. Darius turned to the crew. Divert power to the shields and prepare for evasive maneuvers. We can't take them head-on. As the battle unfolded, Darius and Zira worked in perfect sync, their bond allowing them to anticipate each other's actions. The ship's weapons fired with precision, taking out enemy fighters one by one. But the dreadnought's firepower was overwhelming, and the shields began to falter. We can't keep this up, one officer said, panic creeping into their voice. Zira stepped forward, her features glowing with determination. Then we'll use the bond. Darius frowned. What do you mean? The bondstone amplifies our connection, Zira explained. If we channel its energy, we can unleash a strike powerful enough to disable the dreadnought. Darius hesitated, but only for a moment. Let's do it. A decisive strike. Together, they returned to the Chamber of Echoes, where the bondstone pulsed with raw energy. Zira placed her hands on the stone, motioning for Darius to do the same. As their hands touched the crystal, a surge of energy enveloped them. The bondstone glowed brighter than ever, and the ship's systems responded, channeling the energy into a single, focused blast. Back on the bridge, the crew watched in awe as the dreadnought was struck by a beam of pure light. The massive vessel shuddered before its systems failed, leaving it dead in space. They're retreating, an officer exclaimed as the remaining Dominion ships fled. A new purpose. After the battle, Darius and Zira stood on the observation deck, the stars stretching endlessly before them. You saved us, Zira said, her light glowing softly. Without you, this ship would have been lost. Darius shook his head. It wasn't just me. We did this together. Zira smiled, her features radiant. The bond is stronger than I ever imagined. Perhaps it is not just my people who will benefit from it but yours as well. Darius nodded, his resolve firm. Then let's show the galaxy what we can do. As the ship set course for the next battle, Darius and Zira knew their journey was only beginning. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead and prove that trust, even in the face of the unknown, could change the fate of worlds. Chapter 3: Shadows and Betrayal. The victory against the Dominion dreadnought had granted the Nithilan royal vessel a brief reprieve, but the weight of the war loomed heavier than ever. Captain Darius Kane and Princess Zira Velnias stood at the forefront of a desperate fight, their bond growing stronger with each passing moment. Yet, as they planned their next move, whispers of dissent began to ripple through the ranks. The crew had always revered Zira, their princess and beacon of hope, but her bonding with a human and outsider sparked unease among some of the Nithilans. Rumors of treachery and doubt spread like wildfire. A meeting of allies. To turn the tide against the Dominion, Zira and Darius sought to forge an alliance with the Orion Vanguard, a coalition of rebel factions scattered across the outer systems. The Vanguard's leader, Commander Alrekvas, was a hardened strategist known for his cunning and ruthlessness. Their meeting took place on Calvaris Prime, a neutral planet with a sprawling underground rebel base. The air was thick with tension as Zira and Darius entered the dimly lit war room, their every movement watched by suspicious eyes. "Princess Zira," Alrek greeted, his voice gravelly, "and the human. You've caused quite the stir." Darius met his gaze without flinching. "We're here to make an alliance, not small talk." Alrek smirked, leaning back in his chair. "Bold. I'll give you that. But why should we risk our forces for the Nithilans? What do you bring to the table?" Zira stepped forward, her luminous features glowing with calm authority. "The Bondstone's power is unlike anything you've seen. With it, we can strike at the heart of the Dominion. But we need your fleet to succeed." Alrek studied her for a moment before nodding. "I'll consider it. But trust is earned, not given. Let's see if you can handle what's coming." A trap unveiled. As the negotiations continued, alarms blared throughout the rebel base. Scouts reported that Dominion forces were closing in, their ships descending toward Calvaris Prime in waves. "It's a trap," Alrek growled, slamming his fist on the table. "They found us." Zira's light dimmed slightly as she turned to Darius. "We must act quickly." Darius nodded. "Agreed. We'll hold the line while you evacuate your people." Alrek hesitated, his expression conflicted. Finally, he gave a curt nod. "Fine. But if you fail, we're all dead." The Battle of Calvaris Prime. The Dominion forces descended like a storm, their ships blocking out the sun as they rained plasma fire on the rebel base. Darius and Zira led the defense, their Bondstone-enhanced connection allowing them to coordinate with uncanny precision. Zira commanded from the royal vessel, her voice calm and steady as she directed the fleet. Darius fought on the ground, his rifle blazing as he rallied the rebel soldiers. "Hold the line," he shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We're not giving them an inch." Kara, the wolf-like guardian linked to the Bondstone, tore through Dominion soldiers with feral grace, her iridescent fur shimmering in the dim light. Her presence bolstered the defenders, their courage renewed by her relentless ferocity. Despite their efforts, the Dominion's numbers were overwhelming. The base's defenses began to falter, and hope wavered among the rebels. The power of the bond. As the battle raged, Darius felt a surge of energy from the Bondstone. His connection to Zira deepened, their thoughts merging in a way that transcended words. "Darius," her voice echoed in his mind, "we must use the Bondstone's full power." Darius hesitated. "We don't even know what it's fully capable of." "We have no choice," Zira replied, her determination unwavering. "Trust me." Darius closed his eyes, focusing on the bond. The energy coursing through him grew stronger, and a brilliant light erupted from the royal vessel. The Dominion forces faltered as the light enveloped the battlefield, disrupting their weapons and blinding their soldiers. "Now!" Darius shouted, leading a counterattack. The rebels surged forward, pushing the Dominion forces back as their ships scrambled to retreat. Betrayal Within. As the smoke cleared and the Dominion forces withdrew, the rebel base erupted in cheers. But the victory was short-lived. Later that night, as the survivors regrouped, Darius overheard hushed voices in a dark corridor. He followed the sound, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade, and found two Nithilan officers speaking in low tones. "She's risking everything for this human," one said, his voice filled with disdain. "The Bondstone should belong to our people, not him." "The Council won't stand for this," the other replied. "We need to act before it's too late." Darius stepped into the light, his presence silencing the conspirators. "Care to explain what's going on?" The officers stiffened, their expressions hardening. "This is none of your concern, human." "It is when it involves Zira," Darius said, his voice cold. "If you have a problem, take it up with her." The officers exchanged a glance before storming off. Darius watched them go, his chest tight with unease. He knew their resentment wasn't just personal, was a threat to everything they were fighting for. A choice to make. Darius found Zira in her quarters, her face uncovered as she gazed out at the stars. She turned as he entered, her features glowing softly. "You look troubled," she said. "We've got a problem," Darius replied, recounting what he had overheard. "Not everyone's on board with the bond." Zira's light dimmed, her shoulders sagging. "I feared this would happen. The Bondstone is sacred to my people. They see our connection as a betrayal." Darius stepped closer, his voice firm. "Then we need to show them it's worth it. We need to prove that the bond isn't just about you and me, it's about saving all of us." Zira met his gaze, her light brightening with renewed resolve. "Then we'll show them." Chapter 4. Unity Through Fire. The aftermath of the Dominion's attack on Kelvari's Prime left scars on the Nithilan royal vessel and its crew. Tensions between factions of the Nithilan people were at a breaking point, and the alliance with the Orion Vanguard hung by a thread. For Captain Darius Kane and Princess Zira Velanias, the path forward was as uncertain as the stars they sailed through. But the Dominion wasn't waiting. Intelligence from the Vanguard indicated that a massive Dominion fleet was amassing near Draco Station, a fortified base deep in contested space. The station housed a quantum destabilizer, a weapon capable of destroying entire fleets in a single strike. If the Dominion completed it, the rebellion would be doomed. "We have to stop them," Darius said during a strategy meeting in the royal vessel's war room. Around him, holographic maps displayed the station's defenses, an impenetrable wall of gunships, fighter swarms, and planetary shields. "And how do you propose we do that?" Alrek Voss, the grizzled leader of the Orion Vanguard, asked, his tone dripping with skepticism. "We'd need a miracle to break through that." Zira stood tall, her light glowing softly. "The Bondstone gives us the edge we need. With its power, we can disable their defenses long enough for your fleet to strike." Alrek snorted. "The Bondstone? You're betting everything on that human playing hero?" Darius stepped forward, his green eyes flashing. "I'm not just playing hero. I'm fighting for your survival, same as everyone else here." The room fell silent. After a moment, Alrek nodded. "All right, Captain, but if this goes south, it's on your head." A plan in motion. The plan was ambitious, bordering on reckless. The royal vessel would infiltrate Dominion space using its stealth systems, with Zira and Darius leading a small team to disable the quantum destabilizer shield generator. Once the shields were down, the Vanguard's fleet would launch a full-scale assault. In the hours leading up to the mission, Darius found himself alone in the ship's observation deck. The stars stretched out before him, a vast expanse of infinite possibilities and uncertainties. "You're worried," Zira said, stepping into the room. Her light glowed faintly, a reflection of her own unease. Darius glanced at her. "Wouldn't be human if I wasn't." She moved closer, her voice soft. "Whatever happens, I trust you." He met her gaze, their bond humming faintly in his mind. "And I trust you. Let's make this count." The infiltration. The royal vessel slipped into Dominion space undetected, its stealth systems weaving it through the fleet surrounding Draco Station. On board, Darius, Zira, and their strike team prepared for the mission. Kara, the wolf-like guardian, paced restlessly, her glowing eyes scanning the room. She seemed to sense the gravity of the situation, her movements more focused than ever. As the ship docked in a hidden alcove on the station's surface, Darius checked his gear. "All right, team. Stay sharp and follow my lead." Zira nodded, her face uncovered, her light glowing with determination. "The generator room is heavily guarded. We'll need to move quickly." The team moved through the station's labyrinthine corridors, avoiding patrols and security drones. Kara led the way, her senses honed to detect danger before it appeared. When they reached the generator room, Darius paused, surveying the scene. A squad of Dominion soldiers stood guard, their black armor gleaming under the harsh lights. "Leave them to me," Zira whispered. Her light dimmed as she stepped forward, using the Bondstone's power to create a field of shimmering energy. The guards faltered, their movements sluggish as the field sapped their strength. Darius and the team moved in, taking down the guards with swift precision. Within moments, the room was secure. "Plant the charges," Darius ordered, motioning to the team. Betrayal unmasked. As the team worked, a sharp alarm blared through the station. Darius spun, his rifle at the ready, as a squad of Dominion soldiers stormed the room. But what caught his attention wasn't the soldiers. It was the two Nithilan officers from the royal vessel, standing at their side. "You," Darius growled, his anger boiling over. "You sold us out." The lead officer sneered. "The Bondstone belongs to the Nithilan people, not some human. We struck a deal with the Dominion to secure our future." Zira stepped forward, her light flaring with fury. "You betrayed your people. Your actions will doom us all." Before the officers could respond, Kara lunged, her iridescent form tearing through the Dominion soldiers with terrifying speed. Darius and Zira joined the fight, their Bondstone-enhanced connection guiding their every move. Amid the chaos, one of the officers aimed a weapon at Zira. Without thinking, Darius threw himself in front of her, the blast striking his shoulder. He staggered but stayed on his feet, his rifle firing with deadly precision. "We're not done yet," he growled. A desperate escape. The charges detonated, sending shockwaves through the station as the shield generator collapsed. Alarms blared as Dominion forces scrambled to respond, but the damage was done. The shields were down. "Time to go," Darius shouted, covering the team as they retreated. Kara led the way back to the royal vessel, her glowing eyes scanning for threats. Dominion soldiers pursued them, but the team fought their way through, their determination unshakable. As they boarded the ship, Zira placed a hand on Darius's arm, her light glowing softly. "You saved me." He gave her a faint smile, his shoulder bleeding but his resolve unbroken. "Wouldn't be much of a bond if I didn't." The final assault. With the shields down, the Vanguard's fleet surged into the battlefield, their ships unleashing a devastating barrage on Draco Station. The royal vessel joined the fight, its Bondstone-enhanced weapons cutting through Dominion forces with unparalleled precision. On the bridge, Zira and Darius worked in perfect sync, their bond guiding the ship's movements. Kara stood by their side, her presence a steady reminder of the strength they shared. The Dominion forces fought fiercely, but the tide of battle turned as the Vanguard pressed their advantage. One by one, the Dominion ships fell, their lines breaking under the relentless assault. When the quantum destabilizer was destroyed, a cheer erupted across the fleet. The Dominion had been dealt a crippling blow, their power fractured. Unity through fire. Back aboard the royal vessel, Darius and Zira stood together on the observation deck, the stars stretching endlessly before them. "You did it," Zira said, her light glowing with pride. "We did it," Darius corrected, his voice firm. "Together." She smiled, her features radiant. "The Bondstone's power has always been sacred to my people, but I see now that its true strength lies in unity." Darius nodded, his resolve firm. "Then let's keep fighting for all of us." As the royal vessel set course for the next battle, Darius and Zira knew their journey was far from over. But with their bond unbroken, they faced the future with unshakable hope.